Welcome to the Data Hall YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about how to export Stata's result to an Excel or an MS Word file. So we can execute certain analysis, we can perform certain analysis, but the important task is how do we export those results in a publication style tables. Now we have already covered multiple commands on our channel. We do have videos on them. There is a video on outreg, asdoc, etc. But this specific series is going to cover this est-out command, right? It is rather a package of commands. And we are going to cover regression analysis, summary statistics, mean comparison, one-way tabulation, and two-way tabulation. So we are going to see how each of this analysis can be done and its results can be exported to Excel or MS Word file. So to install this command, we are going to use ssc install est-out, but I have already installed it, so I'm not going to install it. So let's load our Autodata. And in Autodata, we have different cars, their price, mileage, their weight, length, etc. And whether that car is domestically produced or a foreign car. And we are going to start with regression results. So when we are working with the regression results, so if you look at est-out, let me just show you the help menu of est-out and let me just give you some idea. So this est-out command contains some sub commands, right? There is esttab, eststore, estadd, estpost. And all these commands perform certain functions. And this est-out is quite a detailed command, right? So when we are working with the regression, we are going to be working with eststore, that is eststo, and then esttab. So these two commands are going to be used. This eststore is going to be used to store the estimates in Stata's memory, and then this tab command is going to be used for two purposes. One is to display the results in our Stata's window. I mean the way that it would be exported, the same outlook of the table would be displayed in the Stata menu, in the Stata results window, and that is quite unique to this command. The other commands do not do this. This thing is quite unique to this command. And then this same command can be used to save the estimates into an Excel or a Word file. So let's get started. So we have this regression command. And if we execute this regression command, we know that it would perform this regression of price on mileage and length. So if we were to store the estimates, we would just use the est-store prefix before this regression command, right? So that would store the estimates, and we would get this this message in our Stata's window. Now remember, this est-store is used to store the estimates and est-tab is used to display the estimates. So we can use this est-tab and that would display the estimates. Now that is just the basic idea of how this would look like. And we are going to cover different functions, different options that would enhance this capability. But I would just give you an overview of the whole process, and then we would dive into each of these commands in detail. Again, let's just say if I were to execute another regression, this time instead of length, let's say we have weight in our regression model. Now the est-store can be used in two ways. One is to use it as a prefix, and the second is, let's just say you are performing different regression commands and you do not know which one you're going to store the results. So what you can do is perform different regression results, and then once you're done with that, you can use the est-store command afterwards. And now we can simply use est-store or we can also give the name to that stored results. How it stored the result in est1, right? And you can also see that over here, but that is not a descriptive name. And if you wanted a descriptive name, we know that in this regression we have used weight as an independent variable. So rather we should give it a descriptive name. It isn't necessary that you would give the same name as the variable, but anything that would make you remember that. So the results had been stored, and if we do esttab, we get both the results. The first one had mileage and length, and the second one had mileage and weight, right? We get the t stats in within the parenthesis. That is by default, and the nodes would also display that, and we also get the asterisks for each level of significance, right? Again, if we wanted to, let's do one more regression where we have both length and weight, and let's use that as a prefix. So we can use eststore command, and we can use the name of that regression, how those estimates would be stored, even in the prefix, way of storing the results. That will store the results, and if we do esttab, we get the results. Now we would get back to how these columns can be changed and how we can have standard errors in parentheses, etc. But that would be discussed in a while. Let's just save these results. Now, if we wanted to save the results, what we do is with the esttab command, we just write using results.rft, and this rft is used if you wanted to save the results in an MS Word file. If you wanted to save in an Excel file, then we would have to use the CSV. So let's execute this command. Let's open the data. Okay, so one mistake that I always do is that it should not be RFT, rather it should be RTF, right? So that was a spelling mistake. Let's open this. And this is how the results would look like, right? We are going to perform certain formatting with these, but in a while, right? We can also use CSV to save it in Excel, and this is how it would look like. If we wanted to save that in LaTeX format, then we would use TEX. Okay, so let's discuss further options related to eststore and esttab. Let's start with option with the eststore. First thing, we can look into all the stored results by using eststore dir, which stands for directory, and that would give us all these results that are stored. It would give us the command that was executed, the dependent variable name, how many parameters we had, and the title of that, but we can change the title later on. We can click over here and we get the estimated results, right? That is how do we look at the stored results. If we wanted to drop a result that is stored, then we have their names over here, right? So we can use eststore drop, and then the name of that specific result that we want to store. And if we do eststore directory again, we can see that est1 had been dropped, that result had been dropped. And you can see these names are, where are these names coming from? These are coming from the name that we specified with the eststore while we were saving those results. We can specify multiple results. So if we were to drop weight and both, then we can use eststore drop weight and both. Or we can drop all the results by using eststore clear, and that would drop all the results. So we do not get any results. We can also change the title. So let's just say, let's generate new results. Let's generate new regression models and store their results because we have already deleted all of them. So we use est, the name of the stored estimates. We can specify the title. remember, this title is an option with the eststore command, so it would come as a after comma, before the colon sign, because this is so whatever options we are going to use related to eststore would come before the prefix, and whatever options we are going to use with the regress command, let's just say robust, etc., that would come after the regression command with a comma. So let me execute this. The results had been stored, and let me also execute the second where we have weight instead of length. And let's look at the results. Now, although we have provided this title over here, but it does not show the title when we do esttab, and the reason is that by default it would always display the dependent variable name. So one thing we need to do is we need to tell it not to display the dependent variable name, and once we do that, what would happen is that it would start displaying the name of that stored regression. The second thing is that we do not want these numbers to be displayed over here, so we can use the no number option, and this number would be gone. Lastly, we want the labels, and that is where this title would come in, and the labels for the variables would be used instead of their names. So previously we were using the names of the variables, and now with the label option, we have replaced the name with the labels, and we have also used the titles over here. We can give custom titles if we didn't wanted these titles, or we didn't want it to use the label option. What we can do is we can use the m titles option. So let's do esttab, comma m titles, and give the name of the column separated with a space. Remember to use use inverted commas for the column names. So you can see how I'm not using labels or no dependent variable. I've just used this m titles, and that would use the obviously the column names. M stands for model titles. I could have used no numbers or other functions with that, but I guess that's clear. I can also have this title with this table, right? And that would come over here. And remember, whenever you want to, when you think that this table is ready to be exported, what you do is you just let's just say RTF, export the results, and that would be exported in exactly the same fashion that that had been displayed over here. As you can see that we have the table title, we have the model coming from the m titles option. Okay, so we can also add notes over here that, let's just say we wanted to specify the source of the data, or we wanted to specify the details related to these variables. We can also, remember, once you save the results, you'd have to, once you store the estimates, if you use the same name, so these are our results, right? These are the results that were stored. This first column, model X, is the results which we used for the length when we had length variable. But let's just say I have a different model where we have length, weight, and repair variable, but I'm using the same name as I stored the results previously. If I do that, remember that Stata would replace the previous results stored with the name of length. So now you can see that those results had been replaced with the new results. So you can replace by using the same name. That's why names are more handy. We can do regression by group the way we do it. So let's say we have this categorical variable, whether the car is produced domestically or in a foreign country, and we want to have different regressions based for different category of the car, whether that is a foreign car or domestic car. So we want to have a separate regression for domestic cars and a separate regression for a foreign cars. So what we do is we use this by foreign, this name of the variable, categorical variable, colon. Then here we would use the est store, colon. And remember, if you wanted to use any options with the est store, you can do that over here. Regress, and we have our regression. And if you wanted to display the results, we can use that because we already had 2 columns over here, 2 results over here. And then we have added the domestic and the foreign results over here, right? We have used this label and no dependent variable as discussed previously, so we can see the name of the labels using which we have stored the results. Let's move to the options related to est tab. Let's look at different results that we have. Remember, it's not necessary that we have to, export all these results. If we wanted just, if we just do est tab, that would show us all the results, right? All the for models. But if we were interested in just these 2 models, this length and the weight, then we can use those names in our est tab, and that would just display and export those 2 results. Remember, we can not have these parentheses with the t-test, or we can use this bracket option instead of no parentheses, and that would give us brackets instead of parentheses. See this how this t-test is not in absolute form. We can have this ABS option, and that would give us the t-test in the absolute form, or we can use this not option, and that would simply remove the t-tests, right? So the t-test had gone. Now for some journals, we want the tables to be in wide format. So we want the coefficients and then the t-test or standard error or whichever statistics you would want. But the idea is that they would be in different columns in wide format. Similarly, we can have standard errors instead of t-test, whether that is in wide format or in long format. We cannot have stars. We can use R square in our results. We can not have observations, number of observations. We can use labels instead of variable names, and we can use the adjusted R square, right? So this is how it would look like. We have labels, we have standard errors, R square, adjusted R square, right? And we do not have a number of observations. We can also have p-value in parentheses instead of standard errors, right? By default, it would always be a t-value. Or we can use this beta option for standardized coefficients. We can also change the decimal point. So let's just say if we wanted to have this beta coefficients with 2 decimal points, by default, it would give us 1 decimal point. But let's just say if we wanted 2 decimal points, then we can use this beta. Within parentheses, we can specify the number of decimal points. We can do that with each kind of statistics, with standard errors, with p, with confidence interval, or with the t-value. They have their options of their own, and you can specify them all in your est tab command. So you can either save the results, right? And if the results are already saved, as we already have a file by the name of results, so we can replace that. And if we do not, let's just say if we re-execute this regression, this est tab command, and trying to save it by the same name, it would give us an error saying that that file already exists. So what we can do is we can use this replace option. And what that would do is it would delete the previous file and replace it with the newer results. Or we can use this append option. And what that would do is instead of replacing the file, it would append this newer table along with this older table. So we already had this table. When we use the append option, we have appended a new table beneath the older one, and we can go on by adding as many tables as we want. So I hope this was useful. Do subscribe to this channel. Do hit the bell icon, because in next video we are going to talk about other options or other ways that we can use this command to export the results of, let's just say, summary statistics, mean comparison, etc. So stay tuned to the channel.